Obviously, Ada's excited, although not as excited as Angela.
Oh yes, I had a very exciting day. Very exciting 4 weeks, but a very exciting day.
After 24 days and 5 trips to the DMV and 2 sets of paperwork, we actually managed to get our truck registered in North Carolina.
So today we want to talk to you about how the North Carolina DMV Turns, our new soap opera.
Lots of drama, lots of crying, lots of angst, but at the end of the episode, everything turns out okay. At the end of the last video, you saw that we had pulled into North Carolina, and after going to see the Badlands and the Arches and Chester's Chicken and then General RV in Salisbury, and we were really excited about pulling in after 4 days and 2,700 miles, and we were really excited to be home and go ahead and start the process of getting the truck ready to go. And what you did see was that on last day as we're driving in, we got a call from Wendy at Corwin Ford, who said, we've tried to figure out how to send the paperwork to the North Carolina DMV, and we can't figure out from their website. Can you help us? And at this point, we had 4 days left on our 9-day temporary tags, and we said, sure, Wendy, we'll be happy to help. We're counting that as day 0. Day number 1 was a Thursday. We went down to the DMV on New Bern Avenue in Raleigh and said, we've got a package of paperwork and we need to register our truck. And the nice lady at position number 2 said,
well, I can't help you. Your dealer has to send us a packet. And I was like, okay, but our dealer can't figure out where to send it, and they don't know what they need to include in the package. They probably did know what they needed to include, but everyone is talking in letter codes to me, acronyms, and I did not know at that point what MCOS, I think it is. MCOs were. So this lady was so incredible. We called Wendy at Corwin with our rep for the DMV sitting there, and she actually talked to the dealer directly for us. They don't have to do that. Right. She was so sweet. She even wrote the address down so that we could get it to Wendy after we got off the call to make sure that it was right. Yeah.
And so we left that night, and Wendy said, I will overnight the package. Everything's ready to go. It will be there tomorrow morning by 10:30 in the morning. And we thought, this is great. This is going to be great. And yeah, we're going to have to go back down, maybe. But it had only been 2 hours.
The process that had been described to us was they will send this package. We will enter everything in. We're going to open the package, cash their check. Because the check is the tax we've already paid, right? And then we're going to
send you a bill for anything left.
Send you the license plate and the bill with whatever's left.
Right.
Which is awesome. I was like, okay, that works. A week later,
we still didn't
have anything.
So a week later,
I went back down to New Bern and sat in line and
talked to Miss Sheila, who is the deputy manager of the New Bern location, right, which is the centralized license plate portion for North Carolina DMV.
Right, and we had gone there because that one is actually run by the state. So the people that are working there are state employees, and a lot of our DMVs are not state employees, they're actually contractors. So we had specifically gone to the one that we knew was run by the state, right, thinking that'll make it smoother. Which technically it probably should have. I talked to Miss Sheila, as nice as she could be.
And she said, we will get you.
Yeah, she's like, I don't know this name. Like, the reason I ended up with the manager is that my tracking number, when they went back to look at who signed for it, they went, we don't know that person, they don't work here.
We'll find it.
But she goes, it's going to be fine. I'm going to find it. It's going to be fine. I will call you and I will tell you what's going on. Well,
So we walked out and
that
said...
was a Thursday.
That was a Thursday.
Yeah.
By Tuesday...
I had not heard from Sheila, so I was like, I'm going to go back down and see if she's found anything.
Now you have to understand, you're talking at
Several
least an
hours.
hour, if not
Yeah.
several hours, before you can talk to someone who may or may not be able to help you. So
Yeah.
this is now the second trip down,
Yeah.
and you went in and...
That was actually my third trip down.
Third
Yeah.
trip down. And you walked in and said, I'd like to talk to Miss Sheila, and the receptionist said...
She retired last Friday.
But the good news is you got to meet Mr. Ray.
I did get to meet Ray. Ray is delightful, just like he's wonderful. And he was so sweet. And he actually said, this is on us. Like, you sent it here, somebody signed for it at a governor. It is somewhere within the state system. We just need to figure out where. He goes, give me a couple days and let me see if I can find it. He had only been in the position for 2 days, and had come back to work for the DMV to take this position to help them address some situations that they already knew they had.
Right.
So I'm like, sure, Ray, not a problem. We can give you a couple days. I was like, but please understand, I no longer have a valid temporary tag because the state of Washington only gives you a total of 9 days if you're lucky, and that's expired. So I have a vehicle that I can't legally drive in the state of North Carolina.
Can you give us a temporary
Can you even
tag?
give me a temporary tag? You know I'm trying to pay for this.
No,
No,
can't do it.
can't do it. Which, I mean, he's following the letter, the rules that they're allowed to do. And I'm like, okay, so got his name, his manager's name, who's the main manager, whose name is Robin. And he's like, you and I are going to talk. He gave me his state cell phone number so that we could talk back and forth. I mean, he did everything he could to try to keep me calm and happy. And I have to say, I never lost it with him. Ray called me the second time and said, Mrs. Clark, I'm so sorry. We don't have that package.
Right.
And he said, one time good deal. He had it cleared through management that we could have copies sent instead of the originals because he still felt like they were going to find package number one.
Package number one. But package number one had a live check.
Yeah.
And because we have a loan for the truck, the lien holder, our credit union, required that the check be sent directly to the DMV. And we asked Ray, said, hey, what if I can get the lien holder to waive that and they'll send the check to me, which, by the way, the credit union said would be fine. But he said, no, you can't bring the paperwork in. We said, look, just let us send it.
Photocopies of it.
We will bring the paperwork into you. We won't even open the box. You can open the box. Just let it come to us so we don't, nope, can't do that. But at least it doesn't have to have originals in it. So Corwin canceled the check at cost to them, resent the paperwork at cost to them, and Ray said, put my name on the front of it. Okay? This time say attention, Ray, and his last name.
And Corwin got it out within an hour. They had it out.
So this is Friday that we're having this conversation. So it was overnighted to show up Monday morning at 10:30 when the same person who they couldn't find last time signed for it.
Right. I was watching for it on Monday, and as soon as the tracking was there and I saw the signature, I called Ray's cell and said, we have a problem. The same person signed for it. And he says, I'm at a meeting somewhere offsite. I'll look at it as soon as I get into the office and see if I can find that check.
Right.
And he called me back and said, I don't have it. Give me 48 hours to see if I can track it down.
Yeah. So what happens is that it turns out that the DMV has, or the state has, a centralized mail system that comes in, and they get basically a box number on it, and it goes to different places.
Right.
And so that's run not by the state but by a contractor, and it turns out that their SLA is 48 hours on it. So it could take 48 hours to get from wherever this centralized location is at this point to the DMV. And we're like, okay, this time it's got his name on it. So we're thinking, okay, 48 hours SLA, that's great. Wednesday afternoon rolls around and Ray still doesn't have the package. And at this point, I get a phone call. The week before, I had called my state senator and left a voicemail and said, I'm having problems. Our state legislature is out of session at the time, so they were all out. But Wednesday morning, I got a phone call from one of the senator's aides who said, are you still having problems? And so I said, kind of, but here's where we're at. They've asked for some time. It's Wednesday morning. Let's go ahead and not push any panic buttons until we know that something has really gone wrong in this, because Ray's working really hard. We don't want to throw Ray under the bus because it could cause other things. Wednesday night, Ray still doesn't have the package, doesn't know where it's at. It's been 48 hours. So I called back and left voicemail and said, I need some help, please. Thursday morning, I felt we needed some more help after Angela said we still don't know where it is.
Yeah.
And so I found the organizational chart for the North Carolina DMV, and I found a deputy director who had one of their aides listed and the phone number, and that was a mistake. Because I found it, and I called the aide, and she was fantastically very nice. And I started with, I would just like to set up a meeting so that I can come to Rocky Mount where the DMV headquarters is, and I would like to talk to this deputy director. I just need 15 minutes. She said, well, what's your problem? And I said, well, I'm not calling for support. I'm calling to set a meeting up. She's like, well, maybe you've got the wrong. There's a whole bunch of deputy directors. So I went and said, here's what I'm trying to do. She says, boy, that sucks.
And you don't have the right director.
And you don't have the right person. And I'm thinking, okay, who is the right person? And she says, well, I know who the right person is. Give me your contact name. She took the tracking number of the package, and she said, I will get someone working on this. And I said, okay. This is now day 30. We bought the truck on the 24th of October.
Yeah.
We have 90 days to get the title to the loan company. Otherwise, they start charging us really bad problems. We are now a third of the way through this process.
Yeah.
And we've tried twice, and I'm now worried that my credit union is going to start being very upset with me.
And they did call that morning and ask me what was going on, why they didn't have the title yet. And I was like, I left a message last week and told you that we weren't registered yet because they keep losing the paperwork at the state of North Carolina.
So, credit union was
They were nice. Everybody's been nice.
Very nice.
Yeah.
And so I didn't hear anything. I was in Denver at the time, couldn't do anything. I'm working. And
I just happily went on my day. I had to go to the dentist. I took his mom out for lunch.
Right.
And I'm walking out of the restaurant with his mom after lunch, and the DMV calls me. And April said, I have your package and unfortunately know what you owe us. And I went, which one? And she said, what? I was like, I'm sorry, April, but is it a photocopies or is it the original paperwork? I'm trying to figure out, like, if you try to cash the check in the original package, there's been a stop payment on it. It's not going to go anywhere. And she goes, no, I have the photocopies, which I thought was weird, but I went back and they said, go ahead and run it for her. Oh, she had no idea that I had talked to, that Ray was involved, that anybody else had been involved. She just somehow got the package put on her desk.
Yes.
And I was like, I'm on my way. It'll take me I knew it would take me a half an hour from where I was. And she's like, I will be at lunch, but I will be back. She gave me the time, and I was like, I will be there. When you get back, I will be there. And I showed up like 5 minutes after she left for lunch, and I thought, I would have to sit an hour to talk to somebody anyways. I'll just sit in the lobby. Went in, told the nice guy at the front desk why I was there today. And he says, well, do you want a number? Because you're not really in line. I was like, go ahead and give me a number. I was turning around to leave his desk, and my phone rings, and it's Ray. And I went, hi, Ray. And he goes, Mrs. Clark, we found the paperwork. I was like, I know. Somebody called me and told me how much I owed. And he was like, okay, are you coming down? I was like, I'm actually in your lobby. I was like, I know she's not going to be back until, I think it was 2:30. I know she's not going to be back, but I came down here as soon as she called because she's got the paperwork and I want to make sure we know where it is. So he walked out and said, come back with me, put me in with another person, and they got me all set up. Metal plate, they even put the little sticker on the corner for the plate for me, so, the tag that tells how long it's good for. Sent me on my merry way. I gave them a check for a lot of money, and they sent me on my merry way.
So I'm in the middle. I've walked out of a meeting in Denver, and I go to my computer, and I see an email from Angela that has a picture of the license plate that says, "We got the plate." Hallelujah. This is great. I'm going to the airport. I'm going to have a drink at the airport on my way home, right? At which point, I then am driving to the airport, and I get a text that says, "We have a problem." And she sends me a picture of this, which looks like the first plate, but it's not.
It has different numbers on it.
It turns out that what we had waiting in the mail, that should have been here the night before all of this happened, but our local mail person didn't deliver the mail that day, so it came the next day, was the plate from the first package.
So now we're registered twice in North Carolina.
For the same truck.
With the same VIN number. They're not even sure how they were able to do that.
So Angela has to then text Ray and says, "Ray, what do we do?"
Yeah.
And he had to go and he says, "Okay, keep the plate, keep it as a souvenir or whatever."
We're going to put it back in our souvenir pile.
So it goes in our souvenir pile because it turns out that what happened is that we think Miss Sheila did indeed find
the package.
The paperwork. But because she was leaving and retiring, whoever desk she put it on didn't process it for over a week and a half or whatever. All the time that Ray was looking for the VIN number and I was looking for the VIN number, it was not processed. Either that person was gone for a week or whatever.
We don't know. All we know is that all of a sudden it was processed.
But it wasn't processed until Monday morning.
It was processed on Monday morning. The check had been stopped on Friday. So I got that and the bill that was not the same amount, which is a little weird, that we owed. It was close, but it wasn't the exact same amount. And I called Ray and told him and gave him the license plate number. And he goes, "I'm going to find out which one's valid. They can't both be valid." And then he called me back and he goes, "This is like stranger than fiction." They sent it out. They went to cash the check.
Check bounced.
The check bounced because there was a stop payment on it, right? Which is what it should have done. So they voided the registration on the first plate.
But didn't call us.
But didn't call and tell us. Like, I would have taken that plate and stuck it on the back of my car and merrily gone down the street on my way. With a voided plate.
With a voided plate. And when they processed the second plate, no one saw that.
There was a void on there for some reason.
So we're not quite sure how that happened either. But anyway, we now have a plate on the back of our car. We have that plate. And what we ended up finding out at the very end is that when the very first person at station number 2 gave us the box number that the check should have gone to, they made a typo or gave it verbally to us wrong. They wrote it on the sheet of paper, but they reversed 2 numbers. And
it was just one number. I don't remember if it was 57 or 67 it was supposed to be, but whatever it was, we got the other one.
She gave us the wrong box number.
It was literally 1 digit off.
1 digit off.
Yeah.
So both checks and both things went to the same place, and it wasn't until the senator and the deputy director of the DMV called down and read the mailroom, the proverbial riot act, that they thought to walk out of the mailroom and say, "Does anyone know who Ray is?" And
this is when we find out that Rocky Mount is just down the hall.
Oh, and what we found out is the centralized mail facility that had a 48-hour SLA of getting things from the intake out to where they're supposed to go was through the swinging door in the back of the room.
Yeah.
So,
but I mean, Ray, he immediately said, "Thank you so much for escalating this," because that's why it was found.
But we
didn't even know how to escalate it. We were guessing and just starting. I mean,
right.
Who calls their state senator to get a registration issue for your car fixed? I mean, that's just like.
There's no escalation. There's no ombudsman for the North Carolina DMV.
Yeah.
I mean, Ray was doing everything he could do. He was really nice. And I think it's really telling, right? Because when you got done and you were walking
Oh, yeah.
out,
I was giving people hugs when I left because I have a 4-week relationship with some of these people.
Right.
And everybody has been, like, they see me and go, oh, you're not back again, are you? Yeah.
Right. So the people at the DMV worked really hard, were really, really nice, did as much as they could do, but at the end of the day, the system and the process in place really kept them from being able to do anything. And it required having a senator sledgehammer in order...
And I think both them, I think they got it from both the senator and the executive assistant. You know, you need to fix this. Like,
right. But, I mean, what do you do if they can't, they say you can't get the paperwork right? At some point, Corwin would have been well within their reasonableness rights to say, we're not spending any more money sending you checks and anything, right? So we ended up with we were very fortunate that we ended up with the people we did. It was frustrating. It delayed everything by a month, and it was really, really stressful in stupid ways.
Yeah.
But we're very thankful to Ray and April and Robin and all the people who helped us.
And the lady at seat number 1, and the lady at seat number 2, and the lady at seat number 14, whose names, unfortunately, I think number 1 may have been Mary. Everybody was so nice and gracious and genuinely wanted to help.
But couldn't.
Yeah, and I'm kind of proud that I stayed even keeled and polite about this, because I was frustrated.
Well, and they said
when poor Ray told me that Sheila had retired, I was like, good for her. Good for her. You know?
And what's so sad, right, is there's so many ways that this could have been. Sheila, if she had called us and said, hey, we've done this, you'll see it in a week, we could have gone in and said, hey, this has been processed, someone ended up with.
She gave it to somebody.
She gave it to someone, but they didn't then process it for 10 to 12 calendar days, right? And so when everyone went looking for it, they couldn't find it because it was sitting on someone's desk.
And how would that person at the North Carolina DMV know that Washington only gives you 9 days of temporary tags? Because North Carolina gives you 45.
Right. So they were like, oh, it's no big deal, I'll process it when I get to it, but didn't know that we only had 9 days, right?
Yeah.
And so just at every step along the way, it's just been, the process needs to be improved.
This is going to be the end. This is the end of our involvement in As the DMV Turns.
Thank you for watching this episode of As North Carolina DMV Turns. Please join someone else for the next exciting episode. And with that, good night.
Night.